Ooh, this is exotic. Muscle Cat Media. Nice. Cultural.
It's the weekend. It's the Baseball Expats. It's the weekend pickoff here on the Baseball Expats. Full-timers only, though, on this Friday afternoon. No part-time podcasters, which means that, once again, Eric's not here. Like, at what point do we DFA him? Or, like, it feels like we've, I guess, maybe sent him down to get some extra reps, but it feels like he's
Has
not
he got any
getting those
options
reps.
left?
I don't know that he would. Like, if we DFA'd him, would anybody else pick him up? I'm sure they would.
Yeah, he'd clear waivers for sure.
And then they probably he probably wouldn't play enough games to be on their 40-man, so they'd end up handballing him back to us anyways, right?
Yeah, it's like those relievers that they get called up, but their service clock ticks over so slowly that they don't hit free agency until they're like 41.
We're only joking. Eric's dad is in South Australia visiting from Guelph, and he only has, I think he said 3 or 4 days left. So obviously Eric's spending some much-needed time with the old man. So look, I've paid him out. I'll pay Spoon out as well. You told me that you thought you had the baseball tip of the century this morning, and you were frantically asking for someone to talk you out of it. I didn't do so. I nearly followed you in. I hardly bet on baseball ever at all. I nearly followed you in. It was Kevin Gausman's 6 or more strikeouts, and what did they end on, 1?
1 or 2? It wasn't even close. It was...
No.
I almost prefer, in a sick way, I prefer the ones where you can turn off early. Like, I think after the 3rd inning, I was like, you can tell a guy is not going to get his strikeouts even if he gets to 100 pitches because there was just no swing and miss. I think the first AB against Buxton, he had him chasing like 3 times and then he grooved one down the middle for a leadoff double. And it felt like after that, it didn't matter. He'd get to 2 strikes pretty quickly. But if you don't have to put away stuff, you don't have to put away stuff. But I would love to know what it was that the traders knew that made him plus money for 6, because I could work backwards there and figure out in the great words of the Yankees announcer that I sent the other day, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Why is he on first base?
Yeah, that was a Stantonian tip, and I don't know what I did wrong.
Stantonian single.
Sterling? Is that his name?
Yeah, John Sterling. Of course, we're talking about the famous or infamous Giancarlo Stanton single off of the Green Monster that I think John Sterling went into the... That is far. That is deep. That is out of here. A Stantonian blast as he's handing off like his sliding mitt and all this other stuff to the first base coach. And what did I miss?
Fair play to the partner in the booth was like really trying to be like, I thought it was gone too. Could have thrown him under the bus and been like, clearly not. But just kind of let him have his failure divided by 2, which is what I like to hope you'll do for me one day. Not today, though. Not with Kevin Gausman.
I do miss John Sterling at times. He was certainly one of a kind. Look, before we get into the tips, we'll do some housekeeping stuff. I know Spoon kind of wants to take a look at some of the hots and nots of his preseason futures, and he is going to put out sort of a month in review, good, bad, and ugly, for how his futures are traveling. But I just want to take a look around the league this past week at some of the stuff that's been going on, because there's some pretty insane stats that have started to surface. I mean, we're a month through the season now, and I mean, all of this stuff has only sort of come to be in the last week, but there's a lot of history making, it seems like. I mean, we've talked several times on the show already this year about how rookies are really making more of an impact, perhaps now more than ever in this 2026 season, but there's a lot of guys that are sort of chasing a bit of history. And I mean, one of those guys is Jacob Misiorowski, who, I don't know if you saw this, but earlier in the week, I think it was in his Saturday start last week, he struck out O'Neill Cruz with a 102.7 mile an hour pitch, which is the fastest strikeout pitch by a starting pitcher in the StatCast era. He had 8 strikeouts in that game of 100 miles an hour or more, which was a record. And of those strikeouts, 4 of them were 101 plus, and 2 of them were 102 plus, both of which are tied for the most ever by a starter in one game. And I feel like he's still somehow criminally underrated.
Yeah, he's like an Aroldis Chapman or a Mason Miller as a starter, right? And it seems to be sustainable in the sense that he is getting deeper into games kind of every time we're seeing him. I mean, he's made 6 starts this year for nearly 33 innings, so 5 to 6 innings on average. I guess the difference with those guys is he's a 3-pitch pitcher. You know, he's got the the four seam, the slider, and the curve, and where, when the Padres traded for Mason Miller and they gave up such a big haul, the immediate thought from everyone was, are they going to try and convert him into a starter? But unless you've got that third pitch so that you can get those strikeouts against left and right hitters, it becomes a lot tougher, especially if one of those pitches isn't working. But Mizorowski's been amazing, and I think he draws a lot of parallels for me to another guy I like in Chase Burns, who is similar, maybe slightly under with the velo, but like you're watching these guys pitch and it's just like, wow. And it reminds me also a lot of Spencer Strider pre-double Tommy John surgery. Like when he had 16 strikeouts in a game or something once, Spencer Strider, and it looked like a guy's good when he can throw fastballs in the zone. It doesn't matter. And that's where I think the comparisons come with some guys like Mason Miller and Aroldis Chapman, because it doesn't matter if you know what's coming, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be a strike. You just can't hit it.
Well, I think the fears with a guy like Mizorowski, speaking of Strider there, is obviously injury. Like, you just wonder if a guy throwing that many pitches with that type of velo, is his arm going to fall off? And the Brewers can't really afford for that to happen now. We'll talk about it here in just a little bit, but it sounds like Brandon Woodruff's going to be shut down for a little while. And so if Mizorowski maybe didn't already have the pressure to go out and perform every fifth day, he certainly does now. And it's like, how long do you feel like he can sustain this, throwing this velo? Now, essentially, he is going to be the guy. He's going to anchor that rotation now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, especially when they let Freddie Peralta go to the Mets, and that was part of the logic behind liking.
Freddie would probably gladly go back to Milwaukee just quietly.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire either, and they're unable to get more than 5 innings out of him. I think I saw he's only completed 6 once this year. I don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing, but I'm just looking at Mizorowski's percentile rankings for this season, and he's 99th percentile in extension. Typically, that's more stress on the elbow, right? Like, he's winding it right back. I mean, he's got these big, lanky, kind of Inspector Gadget arms, but it doesn't look... I mean, so much of it looks physically impossible anyway, but I'm with you as far as the human body's probably not meant to do this. And how sustainable is it? And I think, I'll touch quickly on some of the futures stuff a little bit later as well when we talk about my guy Cam Schlittler's into second favorite for the AL Cy Young. And as much as I love what he's doing right now, I can't have a guy making his first complete season at that price, because we see more and more, if it's not injury, which is the worst case, the best case is teams are going to take a cautious approach and, phase guys out or skip a start here or there, or just keep them on these limits. Same thing we're probably going to see with Trey coming back for Toronto, especially because he's already had, an interrupted preseason. Look, I hope more than anything it's not going to be an issue, because it really sucks when you get to lock in on 10, 20 guys, not just from a betting perspective, but as a baseball fan, who you circle at the start of the year, the start of the week, saying, I'm keen to watch them start. And you watch that list just drop off throughout the year. And it's like, oh yeah, where is Hunter Brown? We haven't seen him for 3 weeks because he's on the IL. And I think we're seeing that more and more recently. And some of these guys, clearly with plus strikeout stuff, seems to come plus injury risk. So let's hope that they do manage him in the best way possible, because he's a joy to watch.
Just a few other things that jumped out to me. In talking about the Yankees, as we were mentioning that Giancarlo Stanton infamous long single earlier, Ben Rice hit his 10th home run of the season earlier this week, which means both he and Aaron Judge have each reached 10 home runs before the Yankees' 30th game. They're only the second Yankee duo to ever do that, behind Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra. I found that quite surprising, that it's the first time that 2 Yankees have hit 10 homers in their first 30 games ever. That seems baffling to me with the amount of good teams that they've had since 1956. Look, they've also both have 10 homers and 20 walks in the team's first 30 games. It's the first time that's been done in Major League Baseball since 2000, when McGuire and Jim Edmonds did it. I think there's 2 things for me on this. A, it's crazy to me that 2 Yankees haven't done that before in the last 75 years. But also, if you were to tell me that this was going to happen for the Yankees this year, Judge is probably one of the guys that you choose. I don't know if Ben Rice is the other guy that I choose that's going to be the second name as part of that quote-unquote duo.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at it. I don't know, and I don't know if you know. Do you know how many games or what the split is for Ben Rice playing catcher versus DH? Because, I mean, we've kind of touched on this conversation a little bit with, like, Drake Baldwin. And I mean, there's other examples of really good catchers that are getting more playing time by being DH. My guess would be he's been 70% DH because I know they get Austin Wells into the lineup a lot. But yeah, I think he's a perfect example of a guy that's benefiting. It looks like he's played a lot of games at first as well. I mean, they're platooning Goldie pretty much primarily only against left-handed pitching, which makes sense. Ben Rice gets the start against right-handers. So I guess he's effectively able to play three positions, much like Salvi Perez of the Royals, right? You can put him DH, you can put him catcher, or you can have him as a 1B. I'm just going to see if I can quickly bring up the splits of when he's doing the damage defensively, because I feel like we're seeing it more and more as a talking point. Looks like he started 24 games as first base, 3 games as DH, and he hasn't been catcher at all. So that's really interesting. And then the platoon splits left versus right. He's actually holding up his own against left and right-handed hitting, which is probably also surprising, right? Like 4 of his 10 home runs have been against lefties. So left on left, this was a guy that there was a lot of concern. Maybe can't hit left-handers. And I think the Royals are going through something similar again. I don't know why I know so much about Kansas City baseball, but I guess that's what happens when you absorb this stuff daily. Jack Caglianone with that game-tying homer off a lefty closer a couple of days ago, and the fan base was like, maybe he can hit lefties. Seems like a lot of these guys coming up as like top power-hitting left-handed hitters are kind of following that Kyle Schwarber model of, yeah, we know what your matchup is, but so far these guys are bucking the trend. So props to Ben Rice. He's pretty young too, isn't he? He's 27.
Yeah, he was a college guy. I think he was drafted in 21 or 22 out of Dartmouth. Again, I don't know why I know that. We could probably do something useful with the useless amount of information that's
in
in
our
brain.
218 OPS plus. I mean, we were talking about Yordan Alvarez in the last episode and how that is trending towards an MVP type season. There's no reason Ben Rice isn't in that conversation.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Again, it was wild to me that the Yankees hadn't done that in 75 years, and that Ben Rice, of all people, is the guy. I mean, you would expect maybe it was Stanton to mention him again. I don't know why Giancarlo keeps getting mentioned on this show. That wasn't the goal at all, but we can't get his name out of our mouth.
Yeah, I don't know how many April Stanton has played in the last few years, though. It seems like a lot of the time he's on the IL to start the season, and then he kind of comes good when they make their run towards the playoffs in August, and he's always Mr. Consistent for the Yankees in the playoffs, especially when Judge kind of has his issues. So I think he's a second half player. The Yankees have got a first half player, at least in Ben Rice, to go along with Aaron Judge, then look out. And that brings up an interesting talking point. First, I'll ask you if you can price what the Yankees are to win the AL East. And then second, I'm going to ask if you want to play around that. They're currently 20-11, which is 2 games clear of the Rays. And whether you think the Rays will or won't sustain it, spoiler alert, they're 4th favorite still to win that division. So
yeah, well, I would have. It's going to be similar. I'm going to talk myself through this. I think it's going to be similar to what has happened with the Braves, because even though the Phillies and the Mets would be the next 2 favorites, they would be sitting 4th and 5th in the division. So essentially thinking that the other 2 in the division can't win. And you can essentially probably do the same with Boston at the moment. I'd say Boston's maybe still probably 3rd in that market, with, I guess, Baltimore sitting 2nd, if I'm guessing.
The Red Sox are last at 17s, and I still think that's
interesting. Yeah, I would. Look, I think the Yankees are probably somewhere at $1.60, $1.70, if I had to guess.
They're $1.40, which I think to me is too short.
That does seem too short. This early in the season, that seems way too short. I think it's a completely different division, a completely different situation with Atlanta, where I think you can almost where you can shut the gate. Whereas in the AL East, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, so the Braves are 22-9. They're 7 games clear of the Marlins, to your point, and then the Nationals. So it's a case of they've been really, really good, and their 2 key rivals have been putrid, both at like a 33% win rate. I can't have $1.40 about the Yankees at all. I think there's still a lot to come for the Jays. I know they lost today, but I think it's going to improve. I mean, Springer's back in the lineup. I think he had 3 hits. Varsho's back. I'm not sure Kirk's timeline. We know Trey's back. He looked good. I'm tempted to see if I can get the Jays a little bit higher. If I can get them 10 or 11, like that might be a 1 weekend away from them being 10s or 11s. I think that's a really good bet, because this was a division that was declared over by June last year when the Yankees had a big lead and Toronto figured it out and got hot in the second half. I see nothing from the Jays that tells me they can't turn it around quickly. And similar for Baltimore as well. I mean, I've spoken at length about them, but some of their guys are coming back. Not the guy I want to be coming back because he has permanent wrist damage or something like that. But I think the O's and the Jays are, yeah, I'd probably be going something like Yankees $2, those two teams $5, which makes 140 unders and 750 and 9 about the other two maybe overs.
Well, this is interesting because I mean, if you basically do a lay market on the Yankees at $1.40 to win it, they're probably around $3 to not win the division, something like that.
Yeah.
But that would include Boston, so you'd almost go,
And the Rays.
okay, well, yeah, well, but I mean, maybe you keep the Rays in, just maybe keep them safe because they have played well early in the season, and you never really know what happens with that Devil Ray magic, right? So if you were to say the field is $3 against the Yankees, but lose the Red Sox, maybe you get a slight little bump on that to 310, 320 if you were able to sort of spread the bets the bets correctly. I would 100% be taking that. Give me the Rays, Orioles, and Jays, any one of those three teams at say $3.20 instead of taking the Yankees at $1.40 at the end of April.
Yeah, and if you look at strength of schedule so far, you've got the Yankees with the third easiest, which part of that is the teams are bad because you're beating them. So this early in the season, there's a little bit of, maybe factor in the statistical part of that where, a team is winning a lot of their games. Of course, they're going to be seen to be, playing weaker teams. But you've got the Astros at 29 and the Orioles at 30. So how much of it is the Yankees have had some weaker series? And they have. I mean, I know they've had a couple against the Marlins. I think they've had a couple against the Rockies. So, yeah, it's going to get interesting. I mean, a lead that they've got, like you said, is very different to where the Braves are at in their division. They're 6 games clear of the Blue Jays, and I don't think the Blue Jays' April could have gone a lot worse. Like, they had 2 guys pretty much ruled out for the season. They've been down to their third-string catcher. They've been missing Stringer. They've been missing Varsho at times. What's his name? The right fielder Santander has been out. Like it's only up for here from the Jays, I think, and they're at nearly 500. Similar for Baltimore as well. I'd be with you. So anything above 3s for the Yankees to not win the division would be where I'd want to play.
I suppose the good thing about the injuries, if there are already good things about the injuries for a team like Toronto, is that we've gotten to see the debut of, what was the name of that left fielder that they debuted yesterday?
The Harry Potter spell sounding guy.
Hendrik Pinango?
That's right. I was close.
Saw that he was playing again today out in left field. What a name.
Yeah, and is it Valenzuela or something? The catcher has been pretty solid as well. I think a huge part for this team is when is Kirk back, right? Like let me see if I can find that real quick. It's not just what he does with the bat. It's not just what he does behind the dish. I think their pitching has dropped off when they've gone to these, second and third string catchers. And even if you look at the strikeout stuff and the game calling for guys like Gossman, I'm not saying today's bet didn't win because Alejandro Kirk's injured, but I'm also not saying that. I think there's a lot of upside in the pitching staff too when they get Kirk back calling games. It looks like he was 6 weeks from April 8. So what's that? 3 weeks to go. Yeah, I think Jays at 9. I'm talking myself into it more and more as we go. We only ever speak well about Toronto and the Jays when Eric isn't here.
Yeah, and we bag him out when he is on, and when he's not, we go, they're actually a pretty good baseball team. Just another quick ones, a couple of streaks that we're looking at. Nick Kurtz, the AL Rookie of the Year from last year. He's not been great to start the season. I think maybe we expected this off the back of what he did in that Sacramento ballpark last year. I mean, he's hitting, 236, so he's sub 240 through 106 at-bats. So far this season, only 5 home runs. But he's getting on base, so he's drawn a walk in 19 consecutive games, which is tied with Ted Williams, who did it in 1941 for the third longest walk streak since walks have been tracked. So you've got a guy called, I don't even know who this is, Roy Cullenbine, who has the 22-game streak, which is the record. Barry Bonds, of all people, only ever had a 20-game walk streak. So Nick Kurtz is 1 game away from extending that to equaling Barry Bonds in consecutive games with a walk, which to me seems crazy.
Yeah, and fair play to Sacramento. The A's are the only team with a winning record in the AL West. they sit atop the division at 16 and 14. They're getting some pretty nice starting pitching that I think maybe some didn't expect. They keep finding good relievers. We know that they had Mason Miller doing his thing for a while there before he was traded, but they seem to be able to find these guys that come out of the pen and close games down late. But they're getting production up and down the lineup. I mean, props to another guy from that team. Shea Langoliers is having an awesome season already. He had a really good year last year. He has an OPS plus of 152 this season. 8 home runs, 14 RBIs. He's been really good, 1.5 WAR. And I think he was the guy that came back from the Braves in the Matt Olson trade, potentially. Obviously, the Braves were pretty happy with who they've had at catcher, and Drake Baldwin's, gone and backed up that decision to stick with him. But yeah, I think Shea Langoliers has been a big part of that team as well. And I touched on this when we spoke last. Jeff McNeil's been the third best player for the A's this year in their winning season, and it just beggars belief some of the moves that the Mets made in letting guys go like that.
Yeah, it seems like every guy that they let go in the offseason of the last 2 years is just putting up career best numbers, which is just kind of a nanny boo-boo to the Mets, who are continuing to flounder. Look, I will say that Nick Kurtz, despite maybe not having the power numbers, or, he's probably not going to be a big hit for average guy throughout his career. On-base percentage of .417 through the first 30 games for that team is still quite impressive, and you imagine that the power at some point is only going to uptick for a guy like Kurtz. So again, despite maybe not having the best start swinging the bat as he was hoping for, he's obviously been patient, and again is a game away from tying Barry Bonds for the second most ever consecutive games with a walk. And just the last one I'll touch on is your man, Ildemaro Vargas, who will enter tomorrow with a 26-game hit streak. 23 of those have come to open this season. It's tied for the third longest season opening hit streak in the last 90 years. Ron LaFleur in 1976 and G. Walker in 1937 had longer starts. And it sounds like he's, 2-3 games away from the all-time record for the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Yeah, I think 3 off tying and 4 off breaking.
Who holds that
The
record?
cool thing about that, and we talked about Rocks and Diamondbacks earlier this week. I mean, he's been getting some of these hits when the D-backs are down, like we lost 13-1 today and he got a hit, and there was a similar story a couple of days ago, down like 10 runs and he got his hit. He's just kind of turning up, getting a hit or two, not worrying about what the team does, to the extent that he's getting it done. And, the issues for Arizona are definitely not because Ildemaro Vargas isn't getting on base, but it's really nice to see when a team goes through as many injuries as the D-backs have had. And, there was so much excitement around Jordan Lawler's finally going to get a full season, and then breaks his hand, gets hit by pitch, out for 2 months. That's given guys like Vargas and Jose Fernandez more time, and they've really shined with those opportunities. So to the point we were making before about it's awful when some of the great stars and the big names to watch get injured, it does open the door for some cool storylines like this, and we're definitely seeing that with Ildemaro Vargas right now.
And I mean, you live your life in the D-backs Reddit threads, for better or for worse. I'm interested in Jose Fernandez because obviously in his, I guess it was his debut game, whenever he had those 2 home runs in Arizona.
The Tigers. Yeah.
What is his ceiling? I mean, what do people in Arizona think that he can become? Because when I watch him hit, like he has such a presence about him in the box. Like he just has a look and a feel about him and a swagger about him. Like he could be a dead set superstar. Like when you just watch him go about his business, like he has that swagger about him. It's those things that you like, those intangibles that you can't really put your finger on, but he just has the look of a guy. And I mean, he's huge, right? He's 6'4", 6'5", like he's a big dude. But he just has a presence in the box and feels like to me that he could legitimately be, and he's like 22, 23 years old. Yeah. So he's probably fully not developed. But what could his ceiling potentially be? Because, I mean, he seems a bit Rocks and Diamondbacks early, but I mean, that's going to happen whenever you're a rookie of his age. But I feel like his ceiling is super high potentially.
Yeah, I mean, to the point about presence, and not saying that this is where his ceiling is, reminds me a lot of when you'd see a young Juan Soto for the Nationals, right? Where it was like, you'd throw a pitch, he'd choose not to swing at it, and the pitcher wouldn't be happy he got a strike. He was like, uh-oh, this guy's just like absorbed some information, and like he's waiting for his pitch, and I'll be able to get it up real quick. Like the exit velocity on some of the balls he hits are like, they're absolutely smoked. I mean, to come in and get the 2 home runs in his debut, one of them being a go-ahead off Kenley Jansen, is just awesome. He's 70th percentile hard hit rate. I mean, he kind of not really qualified in some of these stats because he hasn't had the ABs yet. 85th percentile bat speed. Like, he swings a very aggressive stick. The really exciting part, I think, for the D-backs has been he's played all over the park already. And, when you're talking about a guy coming up to get opportunities, I think he made his first start at third base, and that was when Nolan Arenado was scuffling, and he was kind of seen as just this glove-only player. Nolan Arenado is now batting 280, and he's like our second best hitter because he had a really good couple of weeks. But we've seen Jose Fernandez play first base and do a really good job there because the platoon plan coming into the season of 53-year-old Carlos Santana and on his last chance, Pavin Smith didn't work out at all. Both guys went to the IL pretty quickly. We let Josh Naylor go in trade, middle of last season, so didn't have a first baseman. Jose Fernandez has been able to play there, and he's actually made some really heads-up plays. He picked off Kevin McGonigal on a line drive to first, and he threw back to third base. Like, this is a guy that can play anywhere in the infield, and having that kind of true utility will carry him a long way because it's going to give him more opportunities. And yeah, I mean, he's batting 325 with 83 ABs, so it's a decent enough sample size now. Only 22, as you said. Like, I think he's going to be a pretty exciting guy to watch. And what was he? He was like 19th on the D-backs prospect list, which shows how funny those lists can be sometimes because no one's expecting this guy at all. And everyone's like, when are we going to see like Waldschmidt and Groover and some of these top D-backs prospects? Instead, it's a different 22-year-old comes up, takes his opportunity, and hasn't really looked back so far. So it's exciting to see.
He is kind of an interesting, like, I wonder if he becomes at some point in his career like a corner outfield type because he seems really toolsy and he's fast. Like, I didn't realize how quick that he was. He's in the 97th percentile in terms of speed, but his defensive range on the infield maybe is not conducive to, I mean, I don't necessarily want to liken him directly to a guy like O'Neal Cruz, but it seems like, and I mean, he's probably not going to go to center field like Cruz does, which I still think is an outrageous experiment that should be ended as soon as possible. But it seems to me like he could probably make up a corner outfield spot potentially. But although if he can play those positions on the infield that are typically lighter hitting positions, maybe that's where you leave him. But he's just such an interesting case. Every time I watch D-backs games, I'm really interested to see him play because he's a joy to watch as a rookie. And like I say, there's just something about him where you feel like he's going to be something.
I think, a good comparison there as well is probably Fernando Tatis, right? When he had that first season and it was like, okay, he's a shortstop. He got shortstop money. Then they moved him to right field. Hopefully we move him to right field before we give him shortstop money.
Just to make sure.
A lot of it is like, it's similar. It's like, okay, this guy's up, but he feels like he's built for the big moments as well. And, that first like big Nando season, he was 21, 22 years old, but he always seemed to be coming up in those big spots. And then he always seemed to be coming through as well. So I think that's probably a decent comparison as well. Again, not saying it's a like for like ceiling wise, but a lot of fun to watch. And while guys like, Ketel Marte and Perdomo, they've both had like scuffling kind of starts. They've been probably okay without being good or great. And maybe again, that's part of like a WBC hangover. We've seen guys like Jose Fernandez and Ildemaro Vargas just carry the offense, and the D-backs are not whatever they are, 18 and 16 because the team's not hitting. I tell you that much.
Yeah,
maybe we need to make him a starting pitcher. I think
crazier things have happened.
James McCann's now pitched in 5 games, I think, which is insane.
You can do the reverse Rick Ankiel, going from a pitcher to an outfielder. You can turn an infielder into a pitcher. Well, look, we will move on. And before we get to your picks for the weekend, you're just sort of teasing it. Zach Wheeler and Yuri Perez matching up Phillies and Marlins tomorrow. We'll get to your tips, but first, let's just have a quick look at, we're a month through the season. You've been very happy with some of your futures selections. You've been not so happy with some of the others. So take us through some of the hot and not of April for the guys that you chose and some of those futures selections before the season started.
Yeah, well, I'm a big finish on a positive note kind of guy. So I'm going to start with the not first. And I think a few of these are going to be almost self-explanatory. Jackson Holiday, I was really excited about having a lot of RBIs this year. I think the ladder for him started at 70. Knew he'd be out for a week, maybe 10 days to start the season. He isn't even a week or 10 days away from starting his season, and we're a month into play. He's been shut down twice on rehab assignments. He can't seem to be able to grip the bat with whatever wrist injury is troubling him. So, yeah, I'm probably going to put that one on the bonfire. That ticket is metaphorical confetti right now. So Jackson Holiday is one of the knots. Brandon Woodruff, unfortunately, is just going to end up there due to injury. And, we talk about this when we do these at the start of the year. You're never going to have every player you pick stay healthy. Unfortunately, you need to hope that, part of the reason we take the top ups is that being really right on one guy can hopefully, outdo being wrong on one guy when you start to get to those higher alternates and, you're paying 4s, 6s, 7s, whatever that is. Woodruff, look, he came in with some injury risk and today was pulled in his start in the second inning. His fastball velocity was down to 86 or something. And what's probably quite embarrassing for Ketel Marte and Adrian Del Castillo is he still had 2 strikeouts. So I don't really understand what happened there. I need to go back and watch it, but the comments were not good. I sent you the screenshot of his comments to reporters about, I can't feel my arm. It's dead. Nothing's coming out. That doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to go and punch out 10 next week. So I don't know if it's Tommy John. I don't know if it's IL, but whatever it is, even if they're going to be really cautious with him, I think I can put a line through 160 strikeouts for Brandon Woodruff this year because
typically the words nothing's coming out from a pitcher are not, well, I mean, typically from anybody in any context, it's not great.
It's a medical emergency.
But for a pitcher to say that, you just go, that sounds like it's going to be something that's long-term. But, I mean, he is a gamer, and we know that, right? And pitchers sometimes talk about, I mean, we heard him talking about it with Kevin Gossman today whenever he felt like he couldn't get his fastball over for a strike or he couldn't get it past bats, was to take something off it and throw the old BP fastball, right, where you do take 5, 6, 7 mph off the fastball, but only in 1 or 2 instances to keep guys on their toes. And, yeah, from what it sounds like, that's what Woodruff's max velo was, which is well below what his normal max velo is. And they must have seen that. I mean, I imagine they were monitoring that, and they probably had some conversations pre-game and in the lead up to the start to say, if the arm feels dead, if it doesn't come alive, come get me. And it's obviously what happened. So it does. I guess what makes that one so damning is there's no real timeline because they don't know what the issue is. They don't really have any idea when he could be back, maybe even throwing again.
Yeah, I think we'll find out tomorrow. Most likely he goes to the 15-day IL. If he goes to the 15-day IL, it's over because he'll be there for 14 days and then he'll go to the 60-day. And when we do our 2028 preview show, I'll be talking about a guy you've forgotten all about called Brandon Woodruff and how he's going to throw 160 strikeouts.
Shane McClanahan 2.0 coming up in 2028.
Yeah, and then to round out, probably, I guess, in tied place, maybe for the third, not so good or bad, would be the home run totals for PCA, who did get 2 this week and maybe improve himself to 4th. And Vladdy, I said to you just before, if you told me Vladdy was going to hit 350 in April, I'd be like, cool, there's going to be 5 to 7 home runs in there. But he weirdly just has not been hitting the long ball. And I know to your point, he did that last year. It's not even really like a slugging thing because he's got a lot of doubles, but he just seems to be a gap-to-gap hitter right now. Am I putting a line through him completely? Absolutely not, because he's had, I think, 2 months last year, he had double-digit home runs. So, we could be talking at the end of May. If he was to get 10, he'd be on 12. All of a sudden, he's probably right back on track to get to that 35. But yeah, I mean, 2 in a month of play when I need 35 is not looking good. It's just not as dead as Jackson Holiday and Brandon Woodruff's arm. Vladdy hasn't said to his training staff or his urologist, nothing's coming out. So switching to some positives, there has been a few, which has been really good to see. Took the ladder for home runs on Yordan Alvarez, who has just been smoking the baseball. I think he's up to 12 as of this morning. He got another one. The ladder there starts at 35. Another 12 home run month anywhere between now and the end of the season is going to put that well and truly in range with top ups at 40 and 45. The question for Yordan has always been health, but so far so good in that sense. So I'm excited about where he's at, firstly. Second one, probably similar vein, James Wood had a brutal start to the year. I think he was, there was talk about potentially sending him down. Had an OPS of 400 in the first couple of weeks with a brutal strikeout rate, which is always going to come with James Wood. But when you're striking out that much and doing nothing else, it's a lot less palatable. His OPS now, I believe, is just under 1,000. He's been doing it all. He's been drawing walks, he's been getting hits, and he's up to 11. He's up to 10 home runs with an OPS of 959. So James Wood has come good. That rhymed way better than it had any right to. And the Nationals have had the 7th hardest schedule so far in baseball. So I think there's more to come for James Wood. I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets out to Coors, because there should be some home runs there. And then third, look, there's probably a few pitchers that are going above and beyond where they should tracking-wise for strikeout numbers. But I can't not give this one to Cam Schlittler, who's been phenomenal. His strikeout tally was low. I think, let's get the article that we put up on baseballexpats.com, shameless plug. I think his total was like 140 at a really good price. And he has just been getting 6 or 7 strikeouts almost every single time he goes out there. He's into second favorite for the AL Cy Young, which is, I think, unders. But he's $5.50 or something like that because he's been so good. Where are we for Schlittler? No, he was 175, but at $3.30. So if you look at what he's doing now, I think it's close to 40 in 6 starts. He's at 49 in 7 starts. 49 strikeouts in 41.2 innings. He's got a whip of 0.74, an ERA of 1.51. And, the thinking for this guy was the Yankees need him to go out there and do it because Cole was going to be a while and a couple of their other starting pitchers were on the IL, and there was going to be an opportunity for a Cam Schlittler to come out there and really cement himself as number 2 in the rotation behind Fried. And he's done exactly that. I mean, it's gone to plan and, in many ways even better than I expected. If you look at his baseball savant for percentile rankings, I mean, this is just ridiculous. 98th percentile chase rate, 97th percentile walk rate. He's going up there and he's throwing strikes consistently. 90th percentile K rate. He's not getting hit hard. His expected ERA is 2.38. So the 1.75 or whatever it is we're seeing isn't even, luck or whatever you want to call it. He has been, by every metric, a really good pitcher. So, yeah, Cam Schlittler, one to watch. I'm not advising the 550 about the AL Cy Young, but I think the 330 we locked in for 175 strikeouts looks really good because he's on pace for over 200 right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, after bagging the Yankees and telling everybody that we don't want to back them at $1.40, I mean, Max Fried has also been incredible. I think he's up there and thereabouts in the AL Cy Young betting at the moment, but look, I also think Garrett Cole's pretty close to coming back. I think he had a rehab start maybe yesterday or the day before. I want to say it was at Staten Island, potentially, or the new. No, maybe it was Trenton. Maybe it was the Trenton team in New Jersey. But they wouldn't have sent him to A-ball, I don't think, to have a rehab start. But I mean, if he's coming back and he's anywhere close to the Garrett Cole that we know, maybe the Yankees do by the end of May poo-poo on the $1.40 naysay talk that we've just done for 25 minutes.
Yeah, because the rest of the rotation, Luis Gil got sent down to the minors because he was pretty awful, ERA above 6. They had a guy called Elmer Rodriguez make his debut yesterday. Great name. I can't think of another Elmer that we've seen in Major League Baseball, but he was fine. If you look at Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, Ryan Weathers, and Will Warren, shout out Will Warren, 2.59 ERA. He's got 37 strikeouts in 31 innings. He's been almost as good as Cam Schlittler. Weathers has been great as well, 3.2 ERA. You add Garrett Cole to those 4 names, and that arguably is the best rotation in baseball. So, yeah, I think as much as we're saying $1.40 is unders, if those 5 guys are giving them a really good chance of winning every night they go out there, then look out, because that's a formidable team to be coming up against, not just in the regular season, but that's a rotation that's built for a 7-game playoff series where you often see, by game 4, teams have to go bullpen guy. If your 4th best guy is Cam Schlittler, that's a very good $1.40 chance in a best of 7 series in a game 4.
Yeah, so I mean, look, the Yankees are traveling well. I think we're just we're always value hunting on this show, so that's why we're not advising you take $1.40. No, I think he left in the offseason. Or didn't he get released in the middle of last year? I watched him pitch live against the Mets on July 4th last year, oddly enough.
Carlos Rodon
is the guy last year.
Rodon's the guy I'm thinking of. He's coming back in. Yeah, he's making a rehab start this week or over the weekend. So all of a sudden, you've either got a really good 6-man rotation or someone like probably probably not Cam Schlittler, but a Will Warren's going to the bullpen. And
Yeah.
that opens up a lot of options. The Yankee starting pitching looks formidable.
Well, but again, their lead, Rays notwithstanding, their lead in their division maybe means that probably not so much with Cole, but maybe with Rodon, that they don't have to rush him per se. They don't need to necessarily rush him back into the rotation, but I would imagine you want to get him back there as soon as possible. So again, we just spent 20 minutes poo-pooing the Yankees, but with all these guys coming back, if they can stay healthy, then yeah, maybe they are going to be quite formidable and tough to.
Would they be
run
second favorite to win the World Series right now? I assume they would be.
I think so, and I think they were to begin the season.
Yeah, they're $8. I think they were very close to the Jays, right? Because the Jays, when we previewed the AL East, the Jays were right around the mark with the Yankees to win the division. So you've got to figure if that was the case, it'd be the same price to win the whole damn thing. But yeah, Yankees at $8 right now, and then Mariners third favorite, not for me. And then Braves at 13 looks like a really good bet right now. You won't get that much.
That to me says that the market's probably, because that's probably about where the Mariners were to start the year. They just haven't budged, so the market may be just keeping them a little bit safe. But I mean, I don't even know if I can have the Mariners as the second favorite in the American League.
The knock on the Braves is they've got to beat the Dodgers in the NLCS, right? You there? Yeah. It was a little one.
Yeah, I died for a second. I tried to open Baseball Reference.
You can get Dodgers $285 or the field at $1.40 for the World Series. Where's that market for everything? Like, give us that for divisions as well, to your point.
I reckon you could find it on Betfair in Australia. I haven't looked, but I would imagine that you could probably lay a World Series winner in a futures on Betfair. And look, if you could do, then maybe that's the play, especially this far out. I mean, I guess the one worry with a team like the Dodgers is that they've clearly shown that they can weather whatever storm comes their way, however, whenever, why ever. But it seems short. Yeah, I mean, you can lay it on Betfair. You've got to give $3.20 at the moment is the only thing. So for a $100 liability, you're essentially only making $45. So you're essentially getting $1.45 on Betfair to lay the Dodgers at the moment, which probably isn't worth it. But if they do come in, maybe more than that, say you're getting anything, you don't have to give anything above 3, then maybe you start to think about it. But I would advise anyone to do that with a high level of trepidation.
You could put $200,000 on the Mets to not win and probably win $40. Get yourself a case of beer.
You know what? Let's do that experiment right now here at Spoon, right on the podcast. This is the content that people come to us for. So, and look, we are not endorsed by Betfair, but Betfair, if you're listening, we would love to have you. So at the moment, the teams that no one has even put a bean on to win the World Series are the Marlins, the White Sox, the Nationals, the Rockies, and the A's. So if I just have a look at the Mets, they're weirdly not at the bottom of this list. So to win the World Series at the moment, the Mets are currently at $36. You can lay them at $42. And if you did that for $200,000, you would make $4,800 profit.
I mean, am I extremely biased? Yes, obviously. Should the D-backs be double the price to win the World Series as the Mets? Absolutely not. Like 61s to 31s I'm seeing between Mets and D-backs, that's just madness, right? And even the Orioles at 26s, I'm trying to make a case for them winning their division, and they're about the same price as the Mets to not only get out of the worst record in baseball, not only get to the playoffs, but then get through the Dodgers in the NLCS. I can't see it.
Yeah, the lay price for the D-backs on Betfair right now is 1,000 to 1, meaning if you put $200,000 on them not to win the World Series, you'd win $200.
But I'd be very happy. I'd be broke, but I'd be very, very happy. The perfect emotional hedge. Put the house on your team.
I can think of maybe some more perfect hedges than to spend that amount of money to win $200. But people do it on that platform because they're out of their minds. Look, let's move on to the weekend and Spoon's tips. He's got a couple for us on what looks like a really fun Saturday morning of baseball here in Australia, just quietly. Shameless plug, the Cardinals and the Dodgers are starting a 3-game series at Busch Stadium tomorrow night, which I'm very excited for because the Cardinals are on a 4-game winning streak after a 4-game sweep in Pittsburgh. So that team's flying high. And, it's a true litmus test, right? You get to see where you are against a team like the Dodgers. I think in some forms, the pitching matchups actually don't necessarily fall toward the Dodgers. I mean, they're throwing Sheen against Liberatore tomorrow. I think I really like the Saturday in the U.S. matchup with Michael McGreevy going against Roki Sasaki. And then you go to Sunday, and who was it that was pitching on Sunday for the Dodgers? Oh, it was Robleski, who, well, he's actually pitched quite well. But it's Dustin May that's going for us, and really any time that he has started for the Cardinals this year, you just write it down as an L in the book before he takes the mound. Even though he is 3-2, but we know that pitcher wins don't mean anything. But that was a long-winded way of saying that I'm very excited for that series this weekend. But Spoon, for you, the first series that we're going to go to for the Saturday slate in Australia, Friday night in the United States, Phillies and Marlins, and a great pitching matchup, Zach Wheeler against your man, Eury Perez.
Yeah, it was tricky picking a couple to talk about here because outside of the two that I will talk about, the Giants-Rays is going to be a lot of fun with Robbie Ray versus Shane McClanahan tomorrow. I'm really excited to see Mackenzie Gore and Jack Flaherty do it. Rangers, Tigers. And then there's some early games between my D-backs and the Cubs at Wrigley. Zach Gallen versus Colin Ray tomorrow. That one at 3:50 a.m. with the state of my head tomorrow morning might be a little bit of a stretch, but I've done worse. So there's a chance that I'll be watching that one live. But yeah, I'm going to kick off with Phillies Marlins. Zach Wheeler came back last week, made his first start since August when he was put to the injured list. I don't think he had TJ, but I think he had something that was obviously long enough term to be 10 or so months out of Major League Baseball. And he was good. He went the 5 innings. He struck out 6 against, got his game log here somewhere, against the Braves, which, the Braves have been one of baseball's best teams in a lot of areas this year, including strikeout prevention. So the Braves are 4th as a strikeout preventing team. Wheeler struck out 6 through 84 pitches, a couple of earned runs, 5 innings. I'm expecting tomorrow to see him go above 90 pitches. I'm expecting to see him go deeper into the game. And I'm expecting to see more strikeouts against a Miami side that are a higher strikeout rate side than the Braves. Then on the other side of that, we've got my guy, Eury Perez, who was probably stiff to miss out on that top 3 hot conversation because he is doing his job and looking in line for a couple of the futures plays that we've got for him. He gets a nice matchup against a Philly team that do have swing and miss in their lineup as well. I'm probably going to play this with a combo K market, which isn't out at the moment. And realistically, we're going to be looking at 12 for even money between them. But what I can tell you right now that you might want to lock in instead, Zach Wheeler, 6 strikeouts, Eury Perez, 5 strikeouts at $2.25. And shop around, you'll probably get $2.50 for that because they seem to fluctuate a lot, these same-game multis with alternate pitcher strikeouts. But yeah, I mean, Zach Wheeler, 6 in a tougher matchup than this in his first start for nearly a year with a low pitch count. I think 6 is clearly in range tomorrow. And Eury Perez, especially at home, has been consistently able to get 5 or more strikeouts. That's not something I'm too worried about with him. I mean, he's hit that in 3 of his last 4. He's kind of been sitting around the 6 or 7 mark. He had a bit of a blow-up start against the Braves, but again, the Braves are a very good baseball team. And if you look at Eury Perez throughout his career, he has pitched much better at home than on the road. And even his couple of blow-ups this year were on the road. His strikeout rate at home this season, in his career, which is 20 games at home, is 10.9, a whip below 1, and an ERA of 2.45. On the road, he's made 25 starts with a 9.5 strikeout rate and an ERA that balloons up to 5.17. So something to watch if you like betting on Eury Perez. He is significantly better at home. And I took note of this after his blow-up start against the Yankees. He made a comment about it just being really cold and the conditions not being what he was used to at all, which is fair enough. I mean, it was early April in New York, and he's used to living and playing in a dome in Florida. So I do like the setup for Perez, and I think moving forward, I'm going to try and lock in on just taking him in these home starts because he's had consistent, much better results throughout his career when he's at home.
There's no distractions in Miami either. We know that. There's more distractions outside of their stadium than there is inside their stadium because there's only about 14 people that are watching them play baseball on any given night. So
unless
maybe
that's
why
WBC.
It's easier to pitch. Yeah, those WBC games will without a doubt be the highest attended games in Miami, probably more than most series that they play, individual games in the WBC. So, yeah, looking forward to watching Wheeler and Perez duel it out in that Phillies-Marlins game, the opener in that series tomorrow. And the second of your best plays goes back to that man that we just talked about, Jacob Mizorowski. He's going against Jake Urban. You like that matchup in the Brewers-Nationals opener?
Yeah, so this is the other one I'm going to be nursing a Powerade and 6 Nurophens to tomorrow morning. It probably on paper isn't a pitching duel where you really like both guys. Obviously, Mizorowski's been brilliant. We've spoken at length about him to start the show. I thought I could find some pretty nice value in another same game multi between these two guys because Jake Irvin has been a bit of a strikeout pitcher this season, and he has done it against some solid teams too. So in his 6 starts this year, the ERA is nothing flash. He struck out 34 in 29 innings, but he's picked up 4 or more strikeouts in every game. And in his most recent start against the White Sox, he struck out 9. And if you look at my favorite kind of indicator for strikeouts, which is the CSW, so called strikes plus whiffs, he's been in the 20s almost every start, with the exception of a rough outing against, you guessed it, the Braves, who seem to ruin everyone's strikeout numbers and run of starts this year. He had 33 CSWs against the White Sox, and he's consistently in that 80, 90, or high 80s, low 90s pitch count. He's hit 100 once. So I think he's going to be getting 4 strikeouts tomorrow against the Brewers. Even when he faced the Dodgers and got lit up to the tune of 6 earned runs, he struck out 4. So I think we can put that in there as half of our multi. And then the other half is Mizorowski for 7. Because that, for a lot of guys, is a top end kind of number. For Mizorowski, it's certainly not. His last 5 games, he's gone 9-9-5 against the Jays, who don't strike out much, then 10 and 7. He's consistently right around that number. And the Washington Nationals do strike out a lot. As much as I love to give flowers to James Wood and everything he's doing, you can almost pen him in for a couple of strikeouts a game every start at the moment. And even when he's gotten hot, that hasn't really changed. They're 18th in baseball on strikeout rate, but a couple of guys in that lineup do a lot of the heavy lifting there, which is more than enough for Mizorowski, I think, to get 7 or more if he's able to get through the lineup a couple of times, which everything indicates that he will. So $2.15 about that. To me, it's the first time I'm going to say this on this show, and potentially the last. Looks like money for Jam.
Oh, no. You told me that this morning.
I've declared it publicly. We can edit this anyway.
So, look, some pretty good pitching matchups, and as we talked about, as has really been customary, it seems like a lot of the weekend series, at least the past couple of weeks, maybe last 2 or 3 weekends, have been really, really good, more so intriguing maybe than what those midweek matchups have been in the big leagues. So, Spoon liking the strikeout totals for Wheeler and Perez in that Phillies-Marlins matchup. And same again in the Brewers-Nationals game with Mizorowski and Urban going head-to-head. And, yeah, look, I mean, we talked about it with Mizorowski just there. I mean, he had 8 strikeouts of 100 miles an hour or more in that 9 strikeout performance that he has against Pittsburgh. So you would be thinking that he'd be able to hit that number tomorrow. Well, as we talked about, Spoon is going to reflect a little bit, we'll say, in the good, bad, and ugly in terms of what his futures are doing. You can find that on baseballexpats.com. Look, I mean, I'm excited about it. It's basically a scoreboard that works, and we don't have to do anything because that's the era we live in, where you can tell Claude that you want something and it spits it out and makes it look nice. So we should be doing a Destiny draft hopefully next week. So like and subscribe. That'll pop up into your feed. And we'll be off to the races for the year. Spoon, it sounds like you've got a big weekend ahead in a lot of different ways. So Godspeed, my friend. Be careful, and we'll chat to you during the weekend.
It's Mad May, baby.